I'm on live. Hello, everybody. It's Shyla Massey. I am here because I need 7 more subscribers. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm going live. I need you to come on in. I need you to subscribe to the channel. I know I have not put out business talks with ordinary people. I need, believe it or not, I should have did one today because I found out that someone in my family was not at their business. And I'm like, well, why you ain't come on and do the live today? Like, that's the least you could have did. So if you don't know, my name is Shyla Massey, and I am a business teacher. And I'm also a marketing teacher. I'm certified in 2 states as a teacher by a Department of Education. I am not a coach. I am literally a teacher. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about banks. We're going to talk about how to write a goal because I ain't know people didn't know how to write no goals. Um, and I'm going to try to think of these stories that I wanted to tell on this live today. I can't remember. I know one of them I'm probably going to end with. I am a believer. I believe in Jesus Christ. That's going to be one of the stories because I thought it was funny. And I am on here to help you. All right. So I am originally from Cleveland. I have lived in the DMV. So that's DC, Maryland, Virginia, actually, preferably Virginia, Northern Virginia, for 3 years out of my life. I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio for 4, and the rest of the years have been in Cleveland. Actually, that's not true. I lived 2 years out in Dayton, Ohio, so we might as well say that. But it was a little town. Literally, cornfields was right next to Walmart, I believe. It wasn't next to Walmart. It was behind Walmart, and then down the street was Target. But I lived right around the corner from Walmart. So that tells you I was in the middle of nowhere, basically, because I literally lived around the corner from Walmart. So I have not been drinking a lot of water. I was looking at my skin and I could tell that. But that's not why you're going to come in. You're going to come in because I'm going to start talking about banks. So I am a business owner and I have several different bank accounts. And people like laugh at me like, well, you got all them bank accounts. Well, I got all them bank accounts because your bank account is only insured up to $250,000. The FDIC only insures a bank account up to $250,000. So if you have $251,000, so $250,001 in your bank account, or $251,000 in your bank account, they're only going to give you back $250,000. The rest of it is like you flushed it down the toilet. Now, I know you may be born recently and may be looking at me crazy as to why would a bank not insure all your money that you put in there? Because there have been times that banks and our financial institutions have gone belly up prior to popular belief, but I am old enough to remember when banks were rapidly closing. I am old enough to remember when people had to go to the bank to pull their money out. I am old. That was not too long ago. And I know people's memories fade them very quickly, especially since the fact that we had almost 50 million people wondering where they were going to eat in the United States. They were worried about how they were going to eat, how their family was going to eat, because the government decided, because we have been in this shutdown so long, we're no longer going to feed the people, our most vulnerable people in our society, the ones we say that don't make enough money for our country to survive. So we're not going to feed them. That was their choice. But what I'm getting back to my story is that there are there's a time when banks did close. So your money is only insured by the FDIC up to $250,000. And you can Google this. How much will the FDIC insure per account? And it tells you $250,000 per depositor per insured bank for each account ownership category. This means that if you have multiple accounts at the same bank, your total coverage can exceed $250,000 if your funds are in different ownership categories, such as a single account and a joint account. For example, a $250,000 single account and a separate $250,000 joint account at the same bank would be fully insured for the total of $50,000. Okay, so it's per depositor, per bank, per ownership category. You have to ask the bank for information on what is considered an ownership category. And believe it or not, guess what? Banks have the information. They would be able to tell you how to properly do that. So I know for a fact that Navy Federal, which is a credit union, has a document that clearly explains how you would be protected in a situation. Now, yes, Navy Federal is a credit union, it is not a bank, so it does have different rules and regulations. But you can ask them for that documentation. So let's talk about what banks are there. So in the United States, we have a lot of banks that are national banks, right? It is based upon their assets. So we have Chase, we have Bank of America, and I don't really know nobody else that's like Wells Fargo is one, but Wells Fargo always gets in trouble. So um I had my mortgage with them, but they sold it to a different company and I didn't like that. I really didn't, to be quite honest with you. I wish it would have stayed with Wells Fargo. They just sold it in July, and I was really shocked that they sold it. But it's probably because I don't owe that much money on it. But that's neither here nor there. So we have Chase, we have Bank of America, we have Wells Fargo. Now I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and at one point, Key Bank, which was I think National City Bank as well, they were considered a regional bank, but based on their assets, they're considered a national bank. Go figure. So, when you're picking a bank account, you need to be cognizant of what what can this bank account do. So I happen to have several different accounts at different banks. I do have a bank account with a local bank. Oh my goodness, it's so archaic. And when I say from a banking perspective archaic, it is like we are still in 1980, 1990. That's how they do things. Like I can't do Zelle through this bank account. I think I can wire, but I'm not for sure if I can wire online. What else? I can't do. It's just like the app is not user friendly. And so what I would recommend to anyone if they are opening a bank account, I would open up a bank account that gives you freedom. Now, so if I would start with Chase because Chase is in all 50 states. And they have an app that's very user friendly. And when I say user friendly, it's user friendly. You can wire money, you can Zelle money from the business bank account. you can um you can do like uh external transfers through the account. It keeps a record of your Zelles. If someone's Zelle information changes, you can't change it on the app. Well, I don't know if you can because I don't know how to do that. You have to log in onto a laptop or a computer and change it there. So for Chase, you have to go onto the app, the application, which is their website software, and you can log in and then you change the information. I also like Chase because if you are out of the country and there's an issue with the card, you can call in, but you can call into a lot of banks. I know you can do that with Bank of America because the number is right there on the card. But I do like Chase for that reason. And then they automatically block your card if the purchase is at a certain limit for a business. And I know my limit is $799. So if a charge comes in over $799, they will block it. They don't care it, anything. The only way that you can get around it is if you put a pin in. But I do like that about Chase is that it's very user friendly. The thing that I thought was very weird when I first started wiring money, it was the banker actually showed me how to wire it from my phone and was like, "Oh, it's cheaper if you do it yourself." And I'm like, "Cheaper if I do it myself?" Like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. So with Chase, I would, I do like Chase. I think they're friendly. I think they're approachable. I have not used any of their business products that you hear a lot of people talking about, like business credit or anything. I haven't used any of that, so I don't know how that works. So I can't answer questions about that. Oh goodness, I'm so sleepy. I also have Huntington Bank. What I do like about Huntington is that they give you the 24-hour grace period. So if something comes in within a 24-hour period, they won't charge you a overdraft fee. They will wait. But the thing I don't like about Chase is that they charge you for everything else. And I think Huntington is good for businesses just starting out. I will say that. I've used Huntington for two different businesses that I have, and I was pleasantly surprised. I would say that Huntington is a regional bank for me because they're not based out of my city, but their headquarters is in the capital. So I would say that Huntington is a regional bank. And they have programs to help small businesses. I was recently talking to them for me expanding, and they seem very open. But I think they also seem very open because I know what I'm talking about, right? So when you talk to me, it's not a conversation with someone who says like, "Oh, I don't know. Oh, I da 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 da." No, if you really want to know the answer, I can give you the answer in 15 minutes. But it's not an answer at the top of my head. And the reason why I'm saying 15 minutes because based on my connectivity and where I'm at, can I see what you need off my phone or do I need to pull out my laptop? That's what I'm saying. It takes me 15 minutes to figure out a financial answer for my business. For all of my businesses, actually. So with Huntington, and they seem friendly. Huntington seems friendly. Navy Federal. So they just opened up in my state two additional locations, branches, one on the east side and one on the west side, if I'm not mistaken, if I had this right. However, prior to that, Navy Federal was the place I went if my business really needed money and I had to pull it out of my savings. So, what does that mean? That means that I had to park on the street because there are no garages down there that you can park at. And then I had to walk a mile to get to Navy Federal or a half a mile, however you want to say. Basically, I was doing too much to get this money. So that meant my business really needed the money, right? And that's why I set it up because I knew with the business being in Ohio, if me living in Virginia, I would be able to get the money like that and transfer it to another account. But with me being in Ohio, I knew because Navy Federal is all over the place in Virginia, right? In the DMV. But with me being in Ohio, I knew that if I needed to get the money, it was very, very important for my business. So I would have to park my car, walk to the building. I need to show my ID to get in because you can't just walk into the federal buildings no more. So you gotta show your ID to get in. Then you gotta go through security. Then you gotta get on the elevator and you gotta go all the way to the 26th floor. And then because you on the 26th floor, guess what? You up there with all these other people because this is the only Navy Federal at the time. It was the only one in the state of Ohio. Now, why you would put a Navy Federal in Cleveland versus Dayton when the only Air Force base in Ohio is in Dayton, which would make sense to have a Navy Federal down there. I know it's not the Navy, but it would make sense because it's a military base, right? And not have it in the federal building in Cleveland, which is approximately 2 hours and 45 minutes away from Dayton, the nearest Air Force base, and 5 hours and 45 minutes from DC. I don't know why anybody thought of that. I just don't. I really don't know why they thought of that. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea, to be quite honest with you. But here we are. So the money that I put in Navy Federal is like the business don't go money. It can't go nowhere. It just need to stay there in case we need it in a dire emergency. So we talked about Chase. We talked about Huntington. We talked about Navy Federal. Who's left? Key Bank. So I have an account with Key Bank, and I opened the account with Key Bank because it was local. And I figured because our business is in this city, it would serve as well. But the truth of the matter is, based on assets, Key Bank is not considered a local bank. They're considered a national bank because their assets, I think, is like $1 billion or $2 billion. I don't know. Let's look up that answer. So, I'm sorry. Their assets is 185 billion. So it's Chase assets. Oh my goodness, Chase is 4.6 trillion in assets. Oh, I'm all the way off. Your girl need to learn how to count some money. For real, for real. I'm talking about, they're 2 billion. No, Chase is 4.6 trillion. Key Bank is 184 billion. Right? Is that what I said? Let's go back again. 185 billion. More recent reports from September 2025 indicate total assets of about 187.41 billion. Okay, Key Bank, the 10 biggest US banks by assets. Let's look at this. Let's look at the 10 biggest banks. So, JP Morgan Chase is number 1 at 3.4 trillion. Bank of America is number 2 at 2.5 trillion. Wells Fargo is number 3 at 1.71 trillion. Citibank is 1.7 trillion. US Bank is 662.9 billion. Goldman Sachs Bank USA is 558.2 billion. PNC Bank is 556.1 billion. Truist Bank is 523.1 billion. Capital One is 487.2 billion. TD Bank is 372.8 billion. So then the top 10 banks, Key Bank ain't made that. So Key Bank would be considered a regional bank, not a national bank. So I stand corrected. All right. I don't think we're gonna get this far because why ain't nobody getting on this live? This is the part that I'm confused about. All right, so I'm gonna end this to see if I did something wrong. All right, take care. Bye bye.